Good morning, everyone. We're about 8:10 right now, so we do have a few people still making their way in, but in the interest of time, we're going to get started this morning. Well, good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the spring semester for 2016 for College of the Sequoias. For those of you I haven't had the privilege of meeting personally, I'm Stan Carasosa, Superintendent President of College of the Sequoias. It's really wonderful to be together this morning. Thank all of you for your time. We know this is really busy. There's a lot to do as the semester is getting ready to start. And for you to give your time and be here, I want you to know how much we appreciate that. Let me tell you quickly how this morning will go, and then we've got some welcomes and some introductions to do, and then we're going to jump right into our presentation. What we're going to try to do at the January convocation each year is reconnect us a little bit to the themes, the ideas, and the information that we share when we kick off the fall convocation. So this morning's time together is going to be to help us regroup a little bit and refocus, give a little bit of an update of where we are mid-year, and then this morning I've actually got a cast of colleagues alongside me who are going to also demonstrate some practical examples of the things that we're trying to do to implement those important district goals now and strategic plan objectives. And hopefully that sharing of information gives you not only more knowledge about what we're doing and some practical examples of that, but it also helps connect you continuously to that overarching goal that we have, which is to work toward those strategic plan objectives. And we practiced yesterday, and you know as rehearsals go, the technology was flawless. So it will only be a few minutes before something goes wrong, but we have people on standby. So that's what we have planned this morning, and for whatever it's worth, in the dry run that we did yesterday, there's a really good chance we're going to get out of here early this morning. So, that usually generates an applause, that's why I paused and looked down. Okay, let's start this morning. First of all, I'd like to welcome our elected board members who are here this morning. It's my privilege this morning to welcome 3 of our board members who are able to be here. First, we have our newly elected board president for the new year, Board President Ken Nunes. Ken, thanks for being here. We have immediate past president, Lori Cardoza. Lori, thank you for being here. And past president and board member Greg Sherman. Greg, thank you for being here. Board members Earl Mann and John Zumwalt. John in particular notified me specifically yesterday that he was sick. He's not able to be here, but he did. I want all of you to know that he had planned to, and so I wanted to share that with you. A couple of quick thank yous. You know, we were getting ready yesterday, and the first thing we learned when we walked into the theater is that the heater broke. So as of this time yesterday, we were rehearsing and steam was coming out of our mouths. So I don't know all of their names, and I apologize for that, but I do know that our facility staff and our HVAC staff worked late into the evening yesterday. I heard stories of blocked valves and sledgehammers that had to break the seals, etc. But because of their hard work, we have heat this morning, so thank you guys. And I know those of us who have been around the last few days or a week or so have seen lots of scurrying going on campus. As is always the case during the break, there's lots of people doing work, grounds and facilities, small projects, upgrades, updates, all of those things on all 3 campuses have been busy this winter break, so I want to make sure that we acknowledge all of that work and all of them. And then if you've been on any of the campuses, you've also seen office staff and the admissions staff and everybody who's responsible for those lines of students who are now out the door again, taking in our students and getting everything processed. I want to acknowledge all of you and give you a thank you this morning for the work that you guys do. Okay, I think that gets us, and as I look over here, I just remembered, it's really important not to forget to thank our interpreters, making the information accessible for all of our audience. So thank you guys for being here this morning. Okay, first thing I guess I want to say is Happy New Year. It's 2016. I don't know how that hits all of you, but when I saw 2016, I was a little, wow, 2016. And so it reminded me a little bit of how much has happened over the last several years. And you know you're getting older when the things that were really popular when you were in school or college are now the things that come out as vintage, or they come out as oldies. And so I thought it'd be a little fun this morning, just to kind of warm us up to the reality of 2016, to ask a couple of "Do you remember?" questions. So this is just to get us warmed up a little bit this morning, but raise your hand and don't shout it out. You can whisper it to your neighbor. We did this yesterday, by the way, I gotta say. We did this yesterday with this crew over here, and with the exception of Calvin, and he's relatively young, none of these guys could answer this stuff. Okay. Who remembers this? Right? Okay, I asked our team over here, they go, "Oh, is that a map for landing a droid?" It's a Ouija board. No, it's some sort of game. I said, those of us who remember it, we probably saw it like this, right? When televisions were tubes, and there were only 3 stations, by the way, at about 12 o'clock every night after the news and Johnny Carson, this popped on. And until 6 in the morning, there was nothing but a test screen on the television. Now, Jessica Fagala was here yesterday. She's absent this morning, and I'm going to fill in for her. She was scheduled to present. But when I made that comment yesterday, she's like, "Oh my God, no TV all night?" Who remembers the original smartphone? All right, that one's not so hard, right? And we thought that was pretty cool, very futuristic. Now, other than the shape of the shoe, we're all carrying one of those. Okay, New Year's is also a time when we make our resolutions. I think every year that I get up here about this time of year, I lament to you a little bit about having, ate too much during the holidays, let's just say it. And so my New Year's resolution always, of course, involves some sort of dieting. But this year, I got to give you a little context. During the Thanksgiving break, we had a big family reunion. And we geared up, my wife and I, we prepared for like 75 people over 3 days, and we cooked and we fed them all, and it was fabulous. And so when Christmas came around, Nancy and I were so excited because we said, you know what, this is the first holiday we're not going to do anything. We just stay home. It's just me and you. The kids can come in and go out, but we're not going anywhere, we're not doing anything. Just the 2 of us. And we held true to that. But you all know my OCD capacity, I couldn't dial down. So I started cooking. And that's kind of what I do during the holidays anyway. It's how I reminisce. I think of my grandma and I make her chili verde. And then I think of my mom and I make a big pan of her lasagna. And then in our family, you can't have Christmas without some tamales and without a little bit of menudo. And so I'm going on like this 3-day binge of cooking. And we're having some fun, and in the beginning it's all stories and talking about and remember this and remember that. And then it starts to go off the rails a little bit. My mom's antipasto tray, Nancy's looking at this thing going, what? There's only 2 of us here. And then I thought, well, let's make some enchiladas. So she grabs me about day 3 by the face and goes, look, we have cans of food everywhere. Stop this, now. So I turn the kitchen back over to her. I come to work this week. I go home for the first night for dinner, and she's got me set up. All right. Jennifer wasn't even here this morning, so I knew I had a little leeway on the jokes in the stand-up. Okay, let's start to refocus where we were when we got together this fall. We're at a great place now at College of the Sequoias. We have our 10-year district master plan complete. Thank you. Dozens of people in this room and hundreds of us across the district worked hard on this in one way or another over the course of the last 2 years. So now we've got a pretty good 10-year map based on our scans data, based on the regional data, that really points us in a good direction as College of the Sequoias. And it's got clearly stated, but pretty broad-reaching district goals. So remember, we talk about our master plan as that 30,000-foot view of what it looks like as we're flying over our district over the next decade. And then we built and adopted our first 3-year strategic plan. So every 3 years, we review and renew our strategic plan. So over the course of a 10-year cycle, that's going to happen 3 times, and we're going to roll right into the next 10-year master plan. And in our strategic plan, we get a little bit deeper down into the blades of the grass, and we develop some very specific and measurable district objectives. And that's our driving force right now. We have to think about those in consideration of the state mandates and initiatives that are being promoted, our accreditation standards, and then of course our mission and our vision for the college. So as we weave those together, these district objectives are what's working right now to help us accomplish that. And all of it is to implement this shift that we talked about in August. Remember the idea that community college now has moved pretty clearly from just creating as much possible student access to actually building systems that help achieve greater student success. And it's not that we haven't done this in the past, but now as the California economy is recovering, a lot of the revenue that we're receiving from the legislature and through the chancellor's office is restricted in areas very specific to improving student success. And I'm not going to put the scorecard up again because we see that every year in the fall, but you understand those indicators that we're all 113 community colleges are now aligning to. So there's big themes across this for us. In our master plan, we talk about major themes. One of them is growth, and that's growth in enrollment. And this is kind of a little roadmap for how we as College of the Sequoias serve our region. As population is going to grow over the next 10 years, enrollment is going to naturally grow. A high percentage of our students are under age 24. As we increase those education levels, we increase the intellectual and the economic development of our entire region. So we're a big part of that as a higher education institution. And then of course, ultimately, we all know that as we continue to raise the academic profile of this valley, we're going to improve the quality of living for our region for a lifetime. So I share that only because I think that's our mission. That's the more kind of moral imperative that we have in the hard work that we do. And for me, every year and every semester, that motivates me. So I thought it was important to share that. The second big theme now is around success. Again, that shift from student access to student success. And we give you the picture of the big flywheel to call your attention to how hard it is to turn that thing at the center. That's where most of the inertia is. That's where a lot of the moving parts need to get going. That's what we would call, if this were a metaphor, where the rubber meets the road. The instruction in our classrooms, the systems in our offices, the practices and strategies that we implement to try to turn the big wheel, with that big wheel being our goals and objectives, getting out there. And so this morning what you're going to see are some examples from our colleagues of actual strategies we're implementing at that point of friction and access. And then we placed the new emphasis now on equity and a new definition. We've always talked about doing what's right and doing what's fair. And now by the distribution of the resources, the legislature is defining that for us more clearly. And so we know that we have some students who are disproportionately impacted. We know that they're underrepresented and underachieving compared to their peers. And part of what we have to do in our goals and in our strategic plan is to close that gap in their achievement. And then for us personally, and this is really a manifestation of our master planning, our strategic planning, our response to accreditation a couple years ago, we're big on sustainability. We don't want any flash in the pan things if we can avoid those anymore. We want to build systems, we want to build protocols, we want to put structures in place that last and that aren't subject to the whim of a new administrator coming in, a change in faculty leadership. They're part of the institutional integrity, and so we've done a lot of work and we will continue to focus on sustainability. So remember who we are, and we've adjusted these. Thank you, Dr. Ozturk gave me updated statistics as recent as yesterday. But this is the demographic for the students that we serve. A big one here, I think that third bullet, almost 70%, 7 out of 10 of our students that come to College of the Sequoias are the first in their family to attend college. And we say, well, that makes sense. We're an agricultural area. We have a lot of migrant families, the Hispanic students. But when we disaggregate that a little further, that first time to attend college, 50% of our non-Hispanic white students are attending college for the first time. So we have a bunch of students coming in that don't have a referential frame for going to college. And we've learned from some of the very successful practices around the state and country and our own programs what we need to do to try to build their capacity to navigate that first-time experience. And in the equity plan is where we laid out our definition. And hopefully you'll remember, if not the definition, maybe the image. But a new definition for equity now is what fair means is no longer that all students will receive the same things. That's open access, everybody can come. Rather, it's that every student receives what they need. And they need different things to achieve the same desired outcomes. This was the image that we put before you in the fall. Our three little guys trying to see over the fence. The goal here that they all need to achieve is to get a chance to see the game. If they all get the same thing, based on them individually, they come up a little bit short. When we redistribute the resources that they have to be able to achieve the goal, they all are able to achieve the same goal. So it gives us a bit of an image, a picture in our mind to try to move toward and work for. So this morning we're going to share with you some examples, again, of those boxes. Remember, it's not just making sure that different students have more boxes. I think what you're going to hear now in the theme from now until the close of our presentation is we don't want to just give them the box. That could be as enabling as anything else we've done. We want to show them how to get that box, stack it, climb up on it, and be able to see that game. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. We're going to start with a big picture of our student success program and a real important component of the student equity plan, and how that deliberate outreach is intended to try to provide our disproportionately impacted students with an opportunity to know how to get those boxes, stack them, and then climb up on there and make some great decisions. So to start that part of the program, I'm going to introduce our Vice President of Student Services, Mr. Brent Powell.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It's great to see you all, and I trust that we're all ready for a very successful spring semester. As Stan said, the emphasis at the state level and consequently here at our local level has gone from student access to student success and reducing the achievement gap. Many of you know that we receive categorical dollars now to do just that, to reduce that achievement gap. And as part of that, we have to submit a student equity plan annually to the Chancellor's office. And essentially what we're doing when we're preparing that plan is we're taking the 19 different subpopulations that the state prescribes for us, and we're measuring those 19 subpopulations across 13 different but related matrices. Things like student access, course completion, degree completion, transfer rates. And we do all of that in order to identify our disproportionately impacted groups. That's a fancy state term for what groups aren't keeping up with their peers. Once we've identified those groups, and we have here at College Squares, once we've identified those groups, it's up to us to put strategies in place in order to reduce the achievement gap. We've got any number of strategies for the individual groups, but I guess the most comprehensive plan that we've put in place thus far is this, our Student Success Program. This program consists of a director, support staff, 6 student success coordinators, and 2 student success counselors. That program just completed its first full semester of operation, and we're thrilled with the direction it's going. And we're really excited about the future, but we also realize that not everybody in this room has had an opportunity to hear about that program or interact with it as of yet. So we thought, what better time than now to bring them out, introduce them, and let them answer some of the most frequently asked questions that they receive. So for all of that, I'd like to introduce the director of our program, a former COS student himself, Mr. Juan Vasquez.
Thank you, Brent. So today I get the opportunity to share and update you all on how the Student Success Program has done this first semester, fall 2015. In a bit, we'll have a chance to introduce the staff, and we'll hear from some student coordinators, student success coordinators. But first, a little background. So we have 5 student success centers across the district. We have 1 in Hanford, 1 in Tulare, and we have 3 here in Visalia. We started recruiting in mid-August. We went out to the quad and went out to the students, where the students are, started talking to the students about what we could do for them and with them. And what we learned, and what kept us encouraged throughout this process, is that the students were so enthused about this. The students' feedback, and this new millennial student, what they like is, they like this person with them, holding them accountable. They like someone side by side with them going through this process. They like having someone to go to, somewhere to go to ask questions. So within the first 2.5 months, we had over 600 students committed to the program by signing our mutual responsibility agreement. So here's our staff, and as we show this picture, let's go ahead and have you stand. Go ahead. So again, within those 2.5 months and again, that's the first 2.5 months of this program, we had students making nearly 2,800 appointments with our student success coordinators. We have 2 new full-time counselors that had 658 appointments. So as you're standing up, let me introduce them to you. So our two student success counselors, Belinda Aguilar-Jones and Daisy Sanchez. Our senior clerical assistant, Charlene Briggs-Sanchez. And then our 6 student success coordinators, Jesse White, who is located in the Morrow Building. Susanna Perez, located in the current building, working with our veterans and basic school students. Elise Garcia, who is located in Sycamore, and she is working with our basic school students and first school students. Ernest Lopez, located in the Hanford Education Center. We have Myra Diaz, working with our ESL and foster youth. Also located in the current center. And then Scott Rogers at our Tulare College Center. So, get the mic. So now that we have a little bit of background, I'll go ahead and bring up 2 of our student success coordinators. And we'll get some responses on some of our most frequently asked questions during this first semester. So, Myra, we'll start with you. What are some of the problems and questions that students come to you with?
Well, this semester, a lot of the problems that we realize that students face, being that we have about 66% of our student population being first-generation college students, one of the main problems is that students lack that connection to resources. They're afraid to ask questions and don't know how to get themselves connected. As student success coordinators, we've had the opportunity of working side by side with these students on an individual basis and learn about their needs, their challenges, and get them connected based on what it is that they're seeking or what they need to be connected to. Like you mentioned, I work with one of the caseloads that I work with is foster youth students. So I had the opportunity of getting connected with a foster youth student who was coming back to school, was wanting to pursue a degree but had no clear direction on how to get there. After working with her and following up with her throughout the semester, we got her connected to see a counselor, got her set up with the right resources that she needed. She struggled in math, and we connected her with tutoring. And I noticed the lack of confidence that she had, but after maintaining and following up with her and checking on her progress, she managed to turn that around and pass all her classes. So that's one of the main things that we get to see and understand is know where they're coming from, understand their challenges, and proceed from there, work with them from that point on forward.
Excellent. And Scott, within this first semester, what has been one of the most rewarding parts?
Gosh, I just consider it a blessing and a great opportunity to be here at COS. Born and raised here in the Valley. Didn't attend COS, but it's a great opportunity to be a part of such a great institution. I've learned so much in such a short period of time within the program. It's really hard to pinpoint just one thing that I can think of. You know, it's really rewarding to be able to see and come to know our district's population. Knowing their obstacles, knowing what it is that they need to overcome and achieve their academic and educational goals. And that's what our purpose is to help them achieve those things. And like Myra said, getting them connected to those resources that they're just not really familiar with. You know, those instructor office hours, prepping them for going in for that, prepping them for a counseling appointment, getting them connected to counseling. It's interesting to see the look on their faces. They kind of have this, like, you know, glow, you know, to their face, and they feel this renewed sense of confidence and optimism that, hey, I can do this. This is something that I can accomplish. And I think that's one of the most rewarding things, is establishing those meaningful relationships with them, getting to know them as individuals, as students, and what their needs are, and helping them to overcome those obstacles. It's just a really wonderful thing to be a part of. It's really rewarding.
Mara, you know, with this being a new position, within this first semester, have you felt like students get your role maybe confused with the role of a counselor or a financial aid specialist or even a tutor?
No, I believe students have a clear understanding of the role that we play as student success coordinators. I tell them I'm neither one of those, and I'm definitely not a tutor. I'm here to work with them and understand their needs and their challenges, and so kind of proceed from there. Like I said, we work with them and we direct them to the department that they need to be directed to. If they're struggling in math, we try to connect them with the math lab. If they're struggling on writing a paper, then we connect them with the writing center. Or if they haven't applied for financial aid, then we try to refer them to the right person, to the right department. Another example, I had the opportunity of working with another student this semester who had not seen a counselor, who had not applied for financial aid. This was already 2 months into the semester, and it's surprising when you hear that, you know, they're not connected to any of these resources. And as soon as you start informing them, the look on their face and how they have no idea of what is available to them to help them be successful and get their way through college, learn how to navigate their way through college is one of the things that we get to do. So as I met with the student, we got her connected to see a counselor who developed a student education plan for her. She learned that you know, what she needed in order to get into the nursing program. She ended up qualifying for financial aid. She got the maximum amount of grants that she was eligible for. As a part-time employment, or as a part-time student working in a fast food restaurant, coming from a single parent household income, that definitely helped boost her motivation and determination in wanting to pursue and complete her educational goal. So we're here to work with other departments in collaboration and achieve our common goal, which is to assist our students in attaining their educational goal.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing the story. Scott, so now that we know a little bit more about the program, a little bit more about what you guys do, how can we all get these students plugged into the program?
That's a good question. We are fairly new to COS and to the district, so we're going to continue to do some pretty aggressive recruiting like we did last semester. We made a lot of phone calls, sent out a lot of emails. We're out in quad talking to folks, talking to students, and just raising awareness in the best way that we can. Our Student Success Center, our main Student Success Center is housed in Sycamore 109. That's where our clerical senior staff is at, Charlene Briggs-Sanchez. You can contact her, send students there. If you feel as though they're appropriate for the program or it's something they want to find out more about, just send them there and she'll get them connected to the appropriate coordinator. One thing we've done in Tulare, a part of this aggressive recruiting, is that we've gone out to faculty. It's smaller, it's more tight-knit. We have great staff out there. We have great faculty, as I'm sure we do here in Visalia. And so we scheduled with them a date and time, beginning of the semester. We go in the classroom, we present for maybe the first 2-3 minutes of class, indicating what it is that we do, what it is that we offer, where we're located, how you can contact us. So that way we're just raising awareness about what the program is and what it does. So contact Charlene, so that way maybe we can schedule something within your classes. We can come talk to students and let them know what it is that we're all about. So we're excited and would like to just increase our caseload as much as we can, serve as many students as possible.
Thank you, Myra. Thank you, Scott. So, along with what our student success coordinators are doing, in these student success centers, we're also hosting a lot of our workshops. Now, the Welcome Center does a great job, and you see JD in this picture here. Just in fall semester, we had 651 students attend some type of workshop during the semester. The Student Success Program has taken, we started conducting the academic and progress probation workshops. We've collaborated with the Financial Aid Office in providing FAFSA workshops this semester. Time management, resume, I mean, a lot of resources for our students, just depending on what their needs are. And then I share this picture because we don't want to forget what this is all about. And these are 4 ITech students that, sometimes our students fall through the cracks. And when we reached out to these students, you can tell how through they are. And the ITech students are sometimes the toughest ones to get to smile. And so we took this picture, they're excited, they got their tools ready, they're meeting with counselors, they're meeting with our student success coordinators. I said, hey guys, can I just get a picture of this? So I do want to share that with you. I want to thank you all for the continued support, and I want to thank you for those of you who we've started to work with, and for those of you who we will be working with. We look forward to it. Thank you.
See how quickly we're emptying these chairs back here? So you got a good example of the student success coordinators and their role and responsibility. Many of you have asked us to share more information about that. Hopefully the examples this morning helped you understand that a little bit better. And as our success coordinators and directors said, do the referral from your class. Work with them to make the information available to students in your program. As faculty especially, no one sees and touches and spends more time with our students than you do. So if the idea of students getting that information and having it is important, then this can be a resource for you. We strongly encourage you to use that. We use this slide with the guys with their tools to give us a transition to the next chunk of information that we want to share. This is where I'm pinch hitting for Jessica, by the way, and she apologizes for not feeling well or being able to be here. But we're also making a pretty good shift now in the human resources. You've seen what we're doing here as a system of intervention for students and support. We're also doing that in some technology ways. Taking some things that have historically been paper and pencil tasks or even more rudimentary, just students keeping their own sheets of paper or lists, and we're trying to automate those in a stronger, more effective way. And so one of the new ideas about this, as I talked earlier, is that we really want to help students know where the boxes are and then stack those boxes, know how to climb up on top of them, and make some decisions that help them succeed. So Jessica found this wonderful quote about empowerment. It's the process of increasing the capacity of individuals or groups to make choices, but then more importantly, transform those choices into the actions that they want to be the outcomes that they desire. And so the idea of being able to manage your own program is where we're going next. And this tool that we're talking about, some of you have heard the buzzword, the tool is a piece of software. It's called DegreeWorks. But really what it is it's a degree audit and tracking system. Many of you are very familiar with these. We've had different versions of these in the past. This one by all of the technical experts and faculty volunteers who have sampled and advised us on this. This one looks to have a really great promise. And so it's a tool that will provide some clear visual indicators for students. They're going to be able to get in, log in, and see, in a lot of ways, the kinds of things that they might only have been able to see and manage before when they were in a setting with a counselor. So we're front-loading the opportunity for them when they come into their counseling appointment to actually have a lot of information ahead of time so that the 30 minutes that they might spend with a counselor are really talking about the reciprocity of my transfer to UC Davis. And they're getting into those details and really honing the importance of that counselor level of talent and expertise and being able to just manage that where am I with my classes, how many units, and that kind of stuff themselves. They'll know about outstanding requirements, things that they still have to take and or complete. There's some degree progress bars that show a student where they are in their academic journey. And then one of the unique features that's going to be demonstrated for you right now is called the what if feature. And it's an opportunity, while I'm looking at everything I've taken so far in my own caseload, to ask myself, am I close enough with this body of coursework to maybe be considered for an additional degree or a different degree or a certificate? What if? And when they click over, it'll load everything that they've taken before into that new pattern and tell them how far away they are from something new and something else. So our resident experts to share this portion of our presentation with you are coming from our counseling office, Emily Briones, and our counseling division chair, Ming Bang. But we're going to start this morning with Emily. So Emily, come on up.
Good morning. Okay, so this morning I'm going to demonstrate a student who's just planning to get an associate's degree from us. And then Mang after will demonstrate a student who's planning to transfer. So this is what a degree audit would look like from a student's perspective. They could log into their Banner web account and this is what would come up. This worksheet up here, I'll scroll up. It will start with basic information, their name, their Banner ID, what degree they're pursuing, their major that they have declared. So the student has American Sign Language, their academic standing. So if they were on academic probation or disqualification, that would be indicated at this point. We did decide as a group that 4 GPAs was very important because the overall GPA is important for financial aid purposes. So 300 level classes are counted in that area. The COS GPA is important to make sure that they have the minimum 2.0 for COS graduation and then the CSU and UC for competitiveness for transfer. We also have holds here indicating, so this particular student does have a hold on their account, so they would know that the following semester they would not be eligible to register. So already that's a lot of information that a student typically coming into a counseling session with me doesn't even know. So this is definitely an empowerment tool for our students. These are the progress bars that were mentioned earlier by Stan. There are 2 different bars. One is a requirements bar, so this is how close they are to meeting all of the requirements for a particular degree. And that can be very different than the units bar because this is just how many units they've taken towards the 60 units for the associate's degree. So this is good for students who maybe they're taking a lot of electives, just taking random classes, not following their student education plan from a counselor because it's showing like they're at 100%, but the requirements could be way down here at 10%. And so they're really not anywhere near graduation at that point. So this can be empowering. It also can be, I feel like, empowering and beneficial for a student. So I'm a counselor in the EOPS program, so I get a lot of students who start out at basic skills or ESL, and sometimes they're just looking at every semester like, okay, I'm taking the next level of ESL class, or I'm taking the basic English class, I'm taking math, and maybe they're not good at math, so they failed Math 360, and then maybe they failed Math 200 once, and so it feels at times, I know I've gotten this, that they're just spinning the wheels, and they feel like they're not making progress. So the great thing about this is they can actually see, am I really making progress? I had a student last semester come to me and he was like, I've had to repeat math a couple of times. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. He ended up getting really sick. He had to drop all of his classes that semester. He's like, I think I'm just going to go to work. He was a re-entry student. He's like, I'm too old. I think it's just time for me to go to work. And so we did kind of a degree audit, but from a counselor. And so we went through and I started highlighting for him everything that he'd already completed. And we had a game plan, and I said, look, you only have 6 classes left, and you can do that in 2 semesters. And his eyes lit up, and he was like, I can do this. And I was like, yes, you can. So we'd like that to be for all students, for them to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And this will help them to see that. So the nice thing here is you get a nice green check if you completed an area. So it starts, the first block is basic degree things that need to be done. So this is minimum residency requirements. So this particular student met the 12 units of residency, the minimum 2.0 GPA, and they still need, there's no green here, so they still need additional major and general education requirements. The next block for the student will see is major requirements. So this particular student has lots of green in the major area, so they've taken ASL classes, and it tells them exactly what class they've taken to fulfill that area. And here it shows the electives. This isn't yet green, but they've taken 2 classes, so the ASL 1 and the SOC 1, and they still need 3 units, and these are the different options. So it clearly tells them right here, what are your options to clear that area? And then in the COS general education, this particular student will see, well, wow, I haven't really done much general ed, maybe I should start doing some of that focusing in that area. So, and nobody wants to start with general education, but so this will show them, this is the class that you need to clear area A1. These are the different options to clear A2 and area B, so on. And this is a really great tool, because I know as a counselor, we do an electronic ed plan, and we don't always, we don't want, it would be at least 10 pages long. You don't put every single option a student can have. And we do go through it with the sheet, but oftentimes that sheet gets lost and all they have is an ed plan because it's on Banner Web. So this clearly tells every class that they can take to fulfill an area. Here's the additional graduation requirements that students need. So they did complete the 2 PE classes, and then the health and wellness, American institutions, and math and library. And then down here, this is electives. So this student has not very many electives, but we will have some students who have a whole list of electives. And so then it clearly will tell them, I'm taking a lot of electives, but nothing really towards the major. So that will be here that they'll have access to. The insufficient, these are classes that they did not pass, will come in this category. And then not counted, these are the 300 level classes that don't count towards the 60 units for the degree. The other cool feature about this that I'd like to demonstrate is the GPA calculator. So if a student wants a desired GPA by the time they graduate, so for this particular student, they needed, say, 24 units remaining to graduate, and they wanted maybe a 3.3 GPA. And, 24 units, they need 60 units to graduate, and say they want a 3.3 GPA. And then it will calculate that for them. So they know that they need to average in the next 24 units of 3.784 GPA to get that. Now, say this student was particularly ambitious and thought, I think I will really want a 3.9 GPA. Because sometimes students have no idea how difficult it is. So if you calculate that, it'll give you a nice error message. Because in order to achieve that desired GPA, you need a 5.284. And that won't help. At least here. So it's kind of an eye-opener for students also. So thank you very much, and Wayne will now demonstrate a student requirement.
Good morning. Our division, we're really excited about this particular new technology, and hopefully when it gets fully implemented, it's going to be very empowering to students. I've often shared with students many times that I don't want you to think that, the counselors are the keeper of the knowledge about what it takes to graduate, what it takes to transfer, and all the degree requirements and this and that. I think we want to empower, we want to make sure that the students know this. So they can make good decisions and good choices with the right information in front of them. What I'm going to demonstrate is John Doe here. And John Doe is going to be a slightly different type of student. This is a student whose goal is to transfer. And you can see that for this particular student here, this student is pretty close to finishing. In the requirements bar, this student has about 83% of the requirements met. In the units bar, this student has 100% met. And again, this student may have a lot of units, but not all of those units took care of the various different requirements. So that's why units-wise, the student's at 100, but requirement-wise, the student's only at 83%. You'll see the difference too, since this is a transfer degree, the general ed is going to reflect that. So this is going to be using CSUGE instead of local COS general education requirement. And you can see that this student is much further along in his journey because all of these various different requirements are checked off with these little green check boxes. You also see that this student will have some courses that maybe did not count due to D's or F's or due to courses that are not transferable. So when you have a student who's this close, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they change their mind. Maybe perhaps they ran into a buddy out there in the quad and they say, hey, you know what, I'm taking these cool auto courses, why don't you change your major and become an auto major like me? Well, this tool allows this student to try and look at that option and see what happens. So the feature here, what if we click on it, okay? The student can go, and now instead of picking the AAT in communication for transfer, the student can say, well, let me try the auto degree. Let's see what happens. How close am I to an auto degree? So we can do the AS degree in automotive technology, and we can click process what if. So look, remember, so this student was a communication major previously, now wants to do auto, and for the auto degree, the student's only at 9% of the requirements met, and when the student scrolls down here, well, guess what? The majors for the auto, the student hasn't taken any auto courses, so this will let the student know, hey, if I switch to this major, this is still what I have left to do. So I think it's a really powerful tool, I think, because a lot of us, I think when we're going through school, we probably change our major once or twice. And so it would be nice for students to have this tool to be able to say, hey, if I change my interest to this degree, am I going to be stuck here for another 2 or 3 years, or can I get out within a year or two? So I think it provides you know, a really good way for the students to have access to this tool. And they will have access to this tool 24/7 because it's going to be online. Another cool feature that I do want to quickly just demonstrate too is oftentimes students sometimes seek advice from their fellow peers about what courses to take and things like that. And so sometimes when we meet them in our offices, we would ask them, who told you to take this course or that course? Oh, my friend or my older brother or my older sister, etc. So there is also a feature here that says, called Looking Ahead. And in this feature, what they can do is they can put in projected courses. So for example, I'll put in 3 courses here just to demonstrate this. So I'll put in a oops, my mouse did not click there. So I'll put in a communication course, 07. And they can add as many courses they want. I'll put in an art, 008. And I'll put in one more. Let's just say that they really wanted to take an EMT course, because their friend told them it was a cool class. So they can put in as many courses as they want, and they can process new. And what's going to happen is it's going to show if they plan for these courses, where do these courses fit into their program here. So they'll see that the COM course actually is going to do something for them with this little blue wavy line here. this plan course, this actually is going to take care of something for them here. What they'll see down here too is that they'll see that the art course, that Art 8 course, didn't do anything for them. It just got dropped down to elective because they did not need any more arts or humanities course. And what they'll also see is this EMT course, it's not even needed for their particular transfer program because it's not even a transferable course, so it's going to not count for anything, so it's not counted here. So again, this is another powerful feature of this, so that students will know if the courses that they're trying to take, whether or not it's going to actually do and work out and take care of a requirement for them. What I've shared with students is college is time and money. You don't want to waste either time or money, so we're hoping that this tool will help improve and increase a lot of our students' success here with moving on to next bigger and better things like graduation, transferring, etc. So with that, I'm going to turn the podium back to Stan.
My problem is I can't see it. That's you, yeah. Okay. So, kind of on the home stretch now. Thank you for your patience. You guys have been great. I hope the information is informative and helpful for you to see some practical examples of where we're turning at the center of that flywheel, how we're putting systems and strategies in place. We started with human resources, people, our student success coordinators, the broad district-wide success program. We kind of narrowed down now to software, some automated systems that we're going to run across all of us that build student empowerment. Now we're going to close this morning with kind of a concrete example of what we're doing in instruction, in our classrooms. We all know from the data that we've studied that the two areas that our students come to us most in need of prerequisite skill and remediation is in English and math. So this morning we picked English because we have Eric Armstrong, a COS staff member, who is also becoming quickly known as someone with strong knowledge and expertise and passion for basic skills education across our region and across the state. And he's got some really interesting things to share about a pilot project that's going on in English. And so we're going to close this morning with a kind of a concrete example of what we're doing in the classroom to continue to turn that flywheel.
Good morning, everyone. So before I start, I want to make sure that it's known, like, even though I'm up here talking about this and I was the first one to teach the class, this is not an individualized effort. There's a lot of faculty members, staff members, behind the scenes helping me plan courses, helping me review them, and they're going to be teaching them in the future. If this is going to work, it's got to be more than one person doing it. So I do want to thank Bryce Nakamura, Josh Geis, Megan Geis, Christina Lynch, Jamie Moore, Carol Firstman, and then eventually we're going to be working with all of those student success program coordinators to help support these students as we move through this. So as we begin, I really want to talk about equity in terms of access to completion. Not just access to courses, but access to actually finishing. So I want to tell you the story of Fabiola, who's in 261 this semester. So I want you to imagine a young, bright, energetic, an engaged but shy student. And inside burns a kind of serious determination. She first started out at 251. She failed. She took it again because she was persistent, and she failed. She met with a counselor. She did the right thing. She made a choice. She met with a counselor, and the counselor said, you know what, maybe it's best if you go back to 360 and get some more support and skills before you take 251. So she did that. She passed. She took 251 again the following semester and failed. And so, according to our guidelines, right, this would probably eliminate her from taking 251 again because she's already taken it 3 times. So 261 was an option that semester for her, so she took it. And she did fabulously well. And there are probably a myriad of reasons why she did not do well in those courses that we can investigate that are important for us to understand. But I think what it reminds us, and maybe tells us, is the different experience developmental students have from transfer-ready students. And I think this is important. For college-prepared students, the doors are open. right? You can take almost any course you want on campus if you're ready for transfer level courses, right? Fewer prerequisites are necessary, or you've met them already by taking the placement test. For unprepared students for college, the hallways look very different. Right? They're often dark, unsure, and for a student like Fabiola, right, she was losing hope that she was ever going to get where she wanted to go because she couldn't pass this English course, right? And I think it calls to mind those boxes that Stan was talking about at the beginning. And for me, it's not just stacking the boxes so that you can see the game. It's about getting into the game. How do you get to participate in the transfer-ready college courses so that you can, in fact, complete your degree or certificate or transfer in the places that you want to go? And so I think it's important for us to know. So I'm going to pull up the scorecard. Sorry. Just to show you again that if you're marked as unprepared for college, that means you're either math or English, you have not placed a transfer level, that you have about half the chance of earning a degree, certificate, or transferring than a transfer-ready student. And this is really important for us to understand, because way down here at the bottom, it tells us that 77% of our students are unprepared for college. Right? So this is the majority of our students, right? Can't get to the completion, can't get to the end. So with that in mind, what we've done is say, how can we rethink how we teach courses, how we align them, how we create curriculum? And so acceleration in English is one of these. So most of you probably know this, so I'll just give a brief overview. We're trying to put them closer to transfer level work. We're giving them that intensity so that they can get the experience and get ready into transfer level work right afterward. So we read some difficult things, we support students, we give them a lab afterward, we have an embedded writing tutor. But the other one I want to highlight is the mindset pedagogy. Part of teaching this course is to teach students to rethink how they think, right? To make that metacognitive approach about how they make decisions, why they make decisions, particularly about education, and change it so that they make better, more empowered decisions around themselves and around their education. And so what we've learned this semester is that these students can write. Right? So in the middle of the semester, we took a blind portfolio read. I was teaching in English 261, and the parallel traditional pathway is English 251. So I was teaching both of those courses. So I had them submit portfolios without names, just student IDs, without class identifications, and then read them with a group of instructors. And afterward, the instructors didn't know who was who, what was what. They just read it, graded it. And afterward, this is what we found. They're step in step with the 251 students. While they may not meet the standard as frequently in those areas, they were exceeding it more often than the other students. And then when they weren't meeting the standards, they were around the same levels as not meeting them, right? They had things to work on. And when you transferred that into grades, right, when I had to assign those categories some kind of point value so that it would fit into their grades, we found that the 261 students actually did slightly better on the portfolio blind reads than the 251 students. So they can write. It's how they think about themselves and how they think about their education that's really, really different and important. So what we found is not very many of them passed, right? Because they wouldn't stay in the course. They wouldn't attend. They stopped turning things in. And so we're going to spend the next semester really trying to support them and understand why that is, so we can fix that and get this up. But the success here is still really important to understand. So of the 360 students who took the class, and there were about 66% of the total were 360 placed, 35.29% of them passed and are ready to register into English 1. I don't know how many have actually done so this semester. I know several of them have, but I just took it to they're ready and prepared and they can do that. In the traditional pathway, from fall to spring, only 27% of them made it. In the previous year, fall 2013 to spring 2014, only 24% of them made it ready to English 1. So in one semester, rather than two, we beat the percentage of students who are placed at the lowest level ready for English 1 and transfer-ready courses by 8 to 10 to about 11%. And we're hoping that as we do this is going to continue to expand so students can get into the game and feel empowered. And what we learned after this, besides just the numbers, they think about themselves vastly different when they're given a challenging opportunity. right? So in the middle of the semester, James Espinoza wonderfully did a small group instructional feedback for me to talk with the students, get their feedback on the course, and then I also gave them a little survey to fill out, and they rated their initial confidence on a scale of 1 to 5 at about a 2.5 on average across all the students. But now, after taking the course and feeling empowered by what they were doing and what they can do, they rated themselves on average at a 3.8. 50% of the students measured their increased confidence by 2 levels, right? Saying that they were much more confident. And at the end of the semester, I asked them some similar questions. I won't go through all of them. I just wanted you to see their improved level of confidence. They felt more likely to go see their professors. They felt more likely to go get help on their writing. They felt more confident about themselves as students and writers. And they were willing to engage in the challenging task of their education. So as we kind of end here, I do want to show you a student perspective, and then I'll have an additional one after this. So this is Jesus Garza. He agreed to do this for us and met me in my office so that he could be videotaped as he answered some of the interview questions. And as you'll notice, he's very to the point. When I was trying to ask him about, you'll see him talk about that he could do this faster, I tried to get him to talk about, well, why is that faster important? And he just kept saying, well, it's faster. And I said, well, what do you mean by it? What does that save you? What does that do for you? He said, Mr. Armstrong, I don't think I understand your question. Why would I do it the other way if I could do it this way? Because for him, it's very straightforward. It's very much, this is the best way for me. And he'll introduce himself and tell a little bit of his story.
Hello, I'm Jesus Garza, and I was in English 261 this last semester. And before this class, I was in English 360, and I failed it due to lack of motivation and my poor habits of studying and reading and writing. But then with this English 260 opportunity, I gotta take another chance to get to English 1 faster. I took English 261 because it was a faster way to get to English 1, and I accepted the challenge for the more work it provided and stuff that I was told that it was gonna have, and yeah, I was ready to accept the challenge. Most challenging about this course is because it's the hard readings and then the writings we had to do about those readings. Especially this reading we had to do by John Rawls, A Theories for Justice. And just the reading was really hard for me, and it's really hard to understand and break down and really trying to take his writing and put it in your own essay. The lab afterwards was most helpful because you go and after that, go into class and then sit down and work on anything you had to do. You get help from the instructors and the tutor there, and just work. I remember we had to turn in this portfolio. It was 2 essays, about 5 pages long, and then this letter we had to write to ourselves about our journey as a student or something. And I remember everyone in class was stressing out about this portfolio, and I was like, all right, this is crazy, they're stressing out, it's okay for me to stress out. I guess it's okay if I don't return it, because everyone else might return it, but no, I did it, and I remember turning it on time, and stapling my papers and then putting it on the desk. And I remember going back to my chair and then just seeing everyone else finish writing and stressing out and seeing them not finish their work. That was pretty awesome. I learned that I need to read more and start writing in order to be more successful in English more, because that is key. More reading is more learning and better. Yeah, I would recommend it because if you're up for the challenge that English 260 offers, and you're willing to do the work, then yeah, why not? Because you're knocking 2 birds with 1 stone. And then it's a faster way to get to English 1. I think an English 360 student will pass this class if they really work hard at it and really do the work and the readings and stuff, and then I think they'll be alright.
So, I was trying to edit on my phone, which is a lot harder to do than it sounds. But it really struck me as a really important idea that he realizes he needs to read more earlier right? Often students think like, I'll just wait on it, and then like when the essays due, I'll read like all the essays, and then I'll be able to like put them in mind, and it'll be amazing. And he realizes that it needs to happen earlier, and I love the connection that he's made for himself, that reading means better thinking, it means better writing overall, the more he can actually do that. And it was really important for me to sit across from somebody who made that realization about himself after the struggle. The other one, the student voice that I want to share with you, she wanted to do a video for us, but she has a medical condition that she makes her very self-conscious. And so over the break, she was resisting doing it, and I said, like, you don't have to if you don't want to. Like, I don't want to put you up in front of everyone if this makes you feel uncomfortable. And yesterday when we were running through the trial run, she sent me an email that was a typed response to the questions that I had and a video saying, like, the medication has worked really well. I feel more confident. If you want to share this, please. I didn't have enough time to actually go in and do the video, but I thought it would be really important to read some of what she typed up and shared with you. So she said, my name is Eva Ortiz. I was placed in this accelerated intro reading and writing class that for me has been in all means the biggest challenge. The reading material given to me was difficult to comprehend, and writing an essay was hard and time-consuming. I never read so much like I did in this class, and thanks to that, I learned so much. I think I couldn't see myself not reading anymore. There's too much I still want to learn. I think my biggest triumph has been passing this course. I discovered in myself from taking this class that I'm capable of learning and accomplishing so many things if I really set my mind to it. I am more open and less scared to new challenges. I feel I can improve so much more, and that there is so much for me to learn, and even though I am scared to take English 1, I have to say this class has prepared me to challenge my fears because I more or less know what to expect. I strongly recommend this class to other students, especially 360 students. I feel students are more capable than what they think, and this class lets them prove themselves. They can accomplish so much if they just don't give up, put a lot of effort, and dedicate themselves to the course. So she is a re-entry student. She hasn't taken a class in 18 years. She claims to me, I don't think it's true, she claims she hadn't read a book in 18 years. So this class was really uncertain for her at the beginning. But by the end, she was confident, and she was ready, and clearly dedicated and wanted to share that story with you guys. So I wanted to take a minute to do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, now the only thing between the end of this program and getting to where you need to be is me. I'm going to hurry this up. But I hope you saw this morning the connection between our examples and how we started with a system-wide and then a technology-based and then a concrete example. All things that we expect to be operating at the center of that flywheel for us. And so as we wrap up, open this guy back up again. Now I've clicked it twice. But it's going to happen. Oh, you had to do that. This is a great lead into how I'm going to close this morning. The theme all the way through, right up to I think what Eric shared with us at the end, the big difference is, as I was listening in what happens with the students as we give them an opportunity to jump into these accelerated classes, is their mindset. It's fewer boxes to climb up to get where I want to go. And if the trip is a little shorter, I'm willing to give you my best effort. And the acceleration, the thing about the acceleration that I think impresses us the most is he tried to give you really clear examples of how we did not compromise the rigor. That's important, and we all understand that. So as we look at the kind of personal traits and characteristics that we're discovering in this generation of students that we're teaching, this idea of problem solving and being self-directed and more assertive. You've heard everything from our student success coordinators and our counselors describe to you how they had to steer students and connected them and help them navigate the steps to actually what that feels like when they get to the classroom. We all, many of us generationally learned these lessons in a different time. And so I've introduced to you before, I'm sure, my grandparents. In growing up with them, I think one of the greatest benefits that I had is I was probably the last to be born of the baby boomer generation, on the tail end of that. But I got the heart of the baby boomer kind of parenting because I was raised by my grandparents. And so while we didn't know anything about technology and while we didn't know anything about college, we didn't have a fear of the unknown. And we didn't have an apprehension about that because we were taught those lessons of self-directed problem solving and assertiveness. And I can remember the first time as a kind of a probably 13 or 14-year-old in my household pitching a little temper tantrum like you do when you're about that age and telling my grandparents, you know, I'm running away. I don't like it here anymore. Well, the message from Tata was, you're about a year late. We stopped liking you last year. I'm serious. From his corner chair, he just said, you know, it's all that tough, man. Go. Of course, they loved me to death, but the reason I give the example is that resiliency that we were taught as first-generation Mexican-American kids, as first-generation college-going kids, we didn't have, he had no idea about what I was going to navigate when I got to college, but I learned that it was my job to figure that out. And we have a little bit different generation today now. And you know that we call these young people, Eric's in this category, the millennials. Okay, so this is the generation that we're serving. And we all have our opinions about them. We've heard about the baby boomers moving to Generation X, moving to Generation Y, and now we're rolling in to this millennial generation. This is my children. And so the research on them is voluminous now. And the characteristics of this millennial generation, I think as we all read this, many of you will resonate to the students that you interact with. It is a very, very diverse group across our country. They grew up with helicopter parents. I suppose I was one of those very close watching, enabling type of parents who was going to solve those problems. Because remember what we were taught and all that great stuff that Nana and Tata gave me is that we should give a better life to our children. But I might have confused a little bit what better meant. And even though I tried to replicate the conditions of poverty, you really can't. I made them sleep in the bedroom together, even though we had a 4-bedroom house. You guys have to share a room. You're going to share a room. But they just didn't live the struggles. And one of the greatest captions I've heard on a documentary from millennials now about a 24-year-old man walking down the street. They grab him and they ask him a question. And he says, yeah, I know that everybody's knocking our generation. They call us the generation where every kid who played sports got a trophy. Well, you're the parents giving us the trophies. And he was right. So they do strive to achieve. They're motivated by grades, recognition, external awards, the standards movement, the testing environment in schools. What's important? Okay? Staying home longer. Why not? Right? It's comfortable at home. But we were the parents that told them, you can be anything you want to be. The sky is the limit. And we gave them all a trophy for participating. We made sure they all felt really good. They grow up with technology as commonplace. You know this. For our millennials today, it's like breathing. But they are, as a group, and the trend data is showing this now, because our first wave of millennials, like the young people we have working in our institution now, are growing up with a tremendous amount of optimism and confidence. And they are very collaborative, and they are very team-oriented. All of that feel-good, cooperative learning stuff we led them through, they're demonstrating that now. But as close as they are to their technology, and as able and confident as they are in being anything they want to be, we as the helicopter parents ran a lot of interference for them, and filled out their forms, and completed their grade stuff, and turned in and took their lunch to school when they forgot it. We did all of those things that Nana and Tata never did for me. So that's the gap we're filling. As I listened to this morning, I thought these skills that they're really lacking, my own kids included, is how to go face to face with people and solve a problem and ask a question. And so as you listened to our strategies, as you listened to the things that we're hugging at the center of our flywheel, it's all about that. We have talented instructors. Our student surveys tell us all the time, this is one of the best places and one of the best experiences they've ever had. We just need to get to the center of where those students are that are disconnected and connect them to all the great things that our students who have success here understand and talk about. So, as we wrap up this morning, probably don't leave this, but as we wrap up this morning, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to serve as your superintendent president, for the hard work that all of you do, and I appreciate you very much. Want to remind you of where we go next, and we are out a little bit early, so we have a little bit of time to navigate from one appointment to the next. I have to apologize, but I have one housekeeping detail that I need to cover with you very quickly, only because we never get together like this and the timing of this opportunity just happened to present itself. But you may have, if you're back in the swing and you've been getting into your email, you may have seen a series of emails that we've started talking about an upcoming new experience for our district, and that's to try to begin to assess and conduct emergency response drills. We're in that time, we're in that generation where it's an unfortunate chore and we have to do that. But I wanted to preload it with you a little bit by saying that a series of emails will be coming out. We're going to ask your cooperation to pay attention to those closely. Because as college campuses, we don't normally have, a shelter-in-place drill. We don't normally stop the world for a minute and listen for instructions and then ring all clear bells and that kind of stuff. So because it's a new experience, we're going to encourage you to pay attention to those emails. We're going to be sending out information that give you as instructors and staff in your offices guidelines for how to spend the time that's going on during the drill. And I guess most importantly, we want to remind you, it's kind of a disclaimer, we're doing it as an assessment. Our commitment to ongoing improvement and always trying to get better. We have already heard wonderful feedback from you as we have started the emails about things that we know need to be improved. Doors, for example, that mechanically aren't able to lock from the inside. Computer screens that might not have their desktops updated so that the emergency messaging comes across. That's all the stuff we want you to assess and give us feedback on. But we didn't want you to feel like we were expecting all of that to be perfect and then feel angry or disappointed when it didn't work. We know there's stuff out there we need to work on. That's why we're asking for your help to do this together. But it is something that we need to get busy and work on, as you know, because it's a necessary chore. So there will be some specific emails coming out. Pay attention to them. We've got a well-organized drill. I want to thank Brent, the Student Services Department, Chief Masterson, the Police Department for doing that. And with that, I want to bid you a great semester and wish you all a happy and healthy 2016. We're adjourned.